Nike, the fourth and youngest princess of the Rain Kingdom, comes to the Sun Kingdom to become the one to marry the Sun King, but she discovers that the Sun King is actually just a baby. A few days ago, Princess Nike and her entourage arrived at the port of the Kingdom of the Sun, a country whose influence covers the whole world. She ordered her entourage to go ahead so that she could move freely when she entered this country. But things weren't as easy as she thought. The motel room couldn't be rented, and the gangsters tricked her into taking all her luggage. With nothing to eat, Nike passed out from hunger, but fortunately, two kind sisters took her home and cooked her food. After eating, Nike told the sisters her story. Days ago, the King of the Sun asked the Rain Kingdom to marry him a princess, so the Nike sisters played rock paper scissors to find out who would get married, and Nike was the loser. The next morning, the eldest sister was kidnapped by thugs while drying clothes. But when they were about to play tricks on her, Nike immediately appeared, and used magic to create a wind to blow them away. After that, Nike broke up with the two cousins' families, and forced the other two robbers to drive her to the capital to meet the King of the Sun. However, when she went to the palace to meet the Sun King, she was shocked to discover that the Sun King, the man who had conquered the world and was her betrothed, was actually just a baby. Livius is the rumored Sun King. In the land of the sun, it never rains, so as soon as he learned that Nike was a princess with the ability to make rain, Livius asked her to make a rain just for his amusement. But Nike's sister refused when she saw Livius show disdain for nature, so she was thrown in prison by Livius and laughed at by him. That night, Nike managed to escape and go to Livius's room to restrain him, but before he could do anything, she collapsed from hunger, so Livius gave her some of his sandwiches. After eating, Nike explained that calling rain is an art. The person who calls rain is an artist, so she needs to have emotions to call rain. Livius obeyed Nike and took her to some beautiful places in the palace to have fun. But while giving her a tour, a mysterious man shot an arrow at Livius to assassinate him, and Nike rushed out to help him with that arrow. The next day, Nike awoke unharmed, and Livius sent her back to the Rain Kingdom to ensure her safety. In the car, Neil tells her that Livius has changed and is very lonely after his mother was assassinated. Suddenly everyone noticed smoke coming from the palace, so Nike quickly ran back. Livius's room was on fire, but he quickly escaped through a secret passage. Standing at the top, he saw Nike singing to the rain to put out the fire. Soon after, a heavy rain fell on this arid country, and this was also the first time that Livius had seen a real rain. After witnessing Nike's ability, Livius announced he would have to keep Nike. During the breakfast, Livius announced that he was going to throw a party to introduce Nike as his bride, and Livius asked her to call rain to show everyone at the party, but she refused. So the two of them continued arguing with each other. While standing in the garden, a group of nobles approached the princess and mocked her country, but Livius appeared to relieve her. In return, Nike gave Livius a pillow to rest. During their conversation, Nike advised Livius to lighten his workload, but he resented her for thinking she was looking down on him. When she went back to the room to rest, she met the maids who were working, so she thanked them for changing her vase every day, but they said that the flowers were actually Livius's own hand for her every day, much to Nike's surprise. When she went to Livius's room, she was beaten up by Neil. Then he told her that since Livius' mother died, he often had to take sedatives before sleeping, but since she was beside him, he no longer had to use it. At the party organized by Livius, Nike appeared splendidly with her heavenly voice. And right after that, a rain fell to everyone's astonishment, causing the nobles who had previously despised her to look up at her beauty. Livius knew that Nike was doing this for her, and seeing the change in Livius' eyes, Nike assumed she learned a little more about him. When she woke up the next morning, Nike commented that Livius also had some cute features and looked at him, and it turned out that he had woken up, making her uncomfortable. Nike was originally a simple princess, so everyone in the palace forced her to learn all the royal rituals in the Kingdom of the Sun. The kingdom's designer even asked her to lose 5 more pounds to be beautiful. The priesthood is the final party to decide who should marry the king. They cancelled the marriage of Livius and Nike because they thought that Nike was a foreigner, so it was not suitable for the culture of this country. Neil said that there is still a way for two people to get married, and that is for Nike to perform a ritual of enlightenment. After completing the ritual, the priesthood would have to let her become Livius's bride. However, Livius rejected this idea because it was too dangerous, and many princesses have died because of this ritual. Since the royal family couldn't get inside the priesthood, the next day, the Nike female disguised herself as a maid to go inside. Seeing a maid being beaten by them because she accidentally dropped an item, Nike immediately rushed to her rescue. A high priest named Rani appeared soon after. He informed her that in this country everyone worships the sun, so her ability to call rain is the enemy of the church. Here, he also insulted Livius' mother, who was also from a poor background, so to him, Livius was a person not worthy of existence. Angry at Rani's words, she was about to punch him, but the other maid stopped her because punching the chief priest would only go to jail. Nike cried a lot when realizing the invisible pressure that Livius was under. When the maid brought Nike to visit an orphanage on the outskirts of the city built by Livius, a child informed her that Livius often came here to see flowers with her, and each time he did, Livius remembered her again. Touched by that, she brought back a bunch of roses to give to Livius. After that, Nike resolved to perform the illumination ceremony, despite Livius' objections. Unable to convince her, Livius gave her the ring his mother had left him before he died, and said it would protect her from danger. When he met the chief priest Rani, he explained to her how to perform the ritual, which is to find a ring hidden deep in the cave, and bring it back here as a marriage gift to Livius. Nike entered this dangerous dark cave, and successfully found its way to a temple. Following Rani's instructions, she found out where the ring was, but inside there was no ring as he said. When he realizes that he has been tricked, there are suddenly assassins sent by Rani, and they are supposed to destroy her, because from the beginning he saw her and Livius as a threat to him. With their church, she quickly turned off the torch so they couldn't see the way, and she quickly ran away, but someone caught her. It turned out to be Livius. He had guessed Rani's plot, so he followed in here. Nike immediately created a mist to cover the eyes of the assassins and ran outside. But when they reached the door, one of them attacked Nike from behind and slashed the ring Livius had given him in half, sending Livius into a fit of rage. Furiously blows his sword away. When he was about to finish him, Nike stopped him and urged him to run away. When he got to safety, Livius hugged Nike and said he could lose the whole country but can't lose her. Although touched by his words, Nike still explained to him that, if he was not the king, how could he marry her, so the two quickly devised a plan and returned to the palace. Seeing Nike in her wedding dress, Livius complimented her on how beautiful she was, making Neil burst into tears because it was the first time he's been true to his heart. When he went before the whole people to return the ring in the ceremony of illumination to the priesthood, to his surprise, there was no ring at all. Livius then explains that the old ring in the cave doesn't suit him, so Nike will make him a ring worthy of his size. Having said that, Nike immediately created a circle around the sun by still using the ability of water vapor to bend light, leaving the entire population in awe. An assassin stood up to denounce Livius. Last night Livius went into the cave while the ceremony was going on. I went in to assassinate the princess, so I know. Now, Rani and his accomplices could not deny their crimes, but instead of punishing Rani, Nike in the name of the queen of this country opened up a path for him to repent. On her first day as queen, Nike went to help people water the plants by creating a rain. When an uncle held Nike's hand out of gratitude, Livius at home saw it all. Returning to the palace, Neil scolded her once for being the king's wife but did not know how to keep the rules. Suddenly a little girl named Luna appeared hugging Livius. She was the princess of the Ocean Kingdom, Livius' childhood friend. This girl is one-sidedly in love with Livius, and under the illusion that she will be his wife, she intends to give Nike as a concubine. That night when Livius and Nike were having a romantic time together, Luna interrupted again. Luna then declared war on Nike on all fronts, from eating, reading, to playing the guitar. Nike loses anyway. Deciding to ask Neil to teach her how to dance, she kicked him right in the foot, while Livius and Luna danced so well that everyone around couldn't stop admiring. Luna asked Nike to stay away from Livius. Since her country is a small country, she will not be able to support Livius while he is king. That night, Livius knew Nike was upset, so he went to her side to comfort her, and the two danced together in the moonlight, in the presence of Luna. The next morning, Luna challenged Nike to horse racing, and during the race, Nike announced that she loved all things Livius, much to Luna's surprise, and she accidentally fell off the cliff, but Nike promptly used magic to save her. Luna thanked Nike for saving her life, and after talking with Livius, she also realized how Nike had changed Livius. The heartbroken girl then stood crying in the rain to relieve all her melancholy. Back at the palace, while doing the paperwork that Neil gave him, Nike called out Livius' name for the first time, so he quickly locked her lips. The next day, Nike made Livius pretend to be a girl to go out together. On the way, they met two delinquents who were bullying children, so Nike took action to help the child. The two went out together to the street to dance with the people. When standing in the crowd, a man was looking at Nike very intently. Arriving at the palace, the other man was known to be Livius' uncle, Prince Bard, the younger brother of the previous king and the current prime minister, but he left that position to travel for a long time. Not paying attention to his nephew Livius, Bard quickly approached Nike to flirt, until Neil reminded him, he walked away. After throwing an axe, Livius warned Nike not to go near Bard, or else he would end up in jail. The next morning, Bard showed off his archery skills to attract the girls. According to a maid, Livius and Bard are like cats and dogs on the outside, but actually they trust each other a lot, but Livius suddenly appears and denies it. Seeing Bard shoot an archery, Livius also came to show his proficiency, but he couldn't even hold the bow, let alone shoot. During a party to celebrate Bard's return, while Livius was not paying attention, Bard carried Nike away in the presence of everyone, and brought her back to her room. He said that he fell in love with Nike at first sight, but Nike discovered he was actually lying even though she didn't quite understand what his intentions were. Suddenly, Livius sent someone to break in the door to arrest Bard and put him in prison. He also threatened to destroy Nike's country and let her keep her in the room. Livius felt he was overdoing it and went to apologize to Nike, but he was still curious as to what he did to her while they were together. Bard in the prison remembers that he used to love Livius' mother very much, and the two often stood in the moonlight talking to each other. Suddenly Nike outside broke the iron fence to rescue him. While walking together outside the castle, Bard reveals to Nike his feelings for Livius' mother, and that after her death, he has only one goal, to protect her only child. Bard's actions in the past were only to test Nike, and if she fell into his trap, he would kick her out of the castle. He hoped that Nike would always be by Livius' side to take care of him, and that he would continue his hiking trip since he still couldn't talk to Livius, but Nike blamed him for not giving it a try. Try to face Livius once. While Bard was flirting with a younger sister, her sister rushed in to report that someone was looking for him, and that person was Neil. At the palace, Nike tricked Livius into the greenhouse in the garden, and he met Bard here, but when he was about to leave, Nike made the rain grow heavier and made them unable to go out. The two of them have a conversation. Bard leaves because he thinks Livius has sunk into hatred and war just to avenge his mother, and Livius gets angry at Bard because he abandoned him. But leave. Thanks to speaking with all their hearts, the two gradually understood each other, but suddenly realized that they had been here for an hour, and Nike had already passed out from exhaustion. After regaining consciousness, Nike saw Livius beside her taking care of her all night. But when Bard flirted with her, he got up and kicked Bard. However, the three of them were then able to live a happy life together. During a ceremony to pray for rain for the entire people, Livius was not the man of Nike's destiny. While everyone was having fun, he recognized her sadness through the rain. Nike later revealed that she received a letter telling her that her grandmother was seriously ill, and that it was her father who taught her the song called Rain. Livius immediately cancelled all his appointments, and decided to go with Nike to the Rain Kingdom to visit her. The elders were packing to travel with the king, but Livius made them stay to look after the house, so they hadn't eaten anything since then because they were so shocked. When they reached the Kingdom of Rain, they discovered that Nike's grandmother had been cured since, but she still wanted to meet the Sun King herself. Suddenly, Nike's two sisters rush in to meet the Sun King, but when they see Neil, they rush back to him and assume he's the king. Nike had to reintroduce Livius to the people that Livius was the king, which was a bit of a surprise, but they quickly realized that Livius was a cute boy, so they took him away. After Nike and Neil left, a guy named Keturah showed up and told her that he would definitely get Nike back. Nike's sisters made Livius change into another outfit, and forced him to act so they could take pictures. That night, Nike enthusiastically prepared Livius some porridge, doing the right role of a good wife. In the quiet of the night, the two locked lips once again, and they seemed to have felt each other's feelings. After last night's kiss, Nike still couldn't get rid of the image of Livius in her mind, so she felt restless in everything she did. While Nike and Livius were walking lovingly holding hands in the rain, Keturah appeared to greet the two of them and said that the two had forgotten to say hello to their father-in-law. Back home, Nike's father told Livius that she and Keturah were childhood friends, and both were raised by her grandmother, so she was very angry when she learned that he married Nike of his own accord. During the pop festival that night hosted by Nike's sisters, Livius wondered where Nike had gone. It turned out that Keturah had arranged to meet her in a closed room, and he used anesthetic smoke to make her faint. The person behind this was her. Nike's brother immediately informed Livius that she was ill and couldn't see him, but Livius couldn't stay here too long, so they would send someone to bring Nike back to the Kingdom of the Sun. When she recovered, Keturah locked Nike up and told her that she didn't want to keep their magic a secret, so they would hypnotize Livius and replace her with someone else to be Livius' wife. When Nike's brother tried to hypnotize Livius while he was sleeping, he suddenly woke up and overpowered him. Suddenly the guards came in from outside, so Neil stopped them to let Livius escape, and he met Nike's sister. Nike's sister led Livius into a cellar to her cell, and explained everything to him. Nick also tells him that she is the most powerful person in this country, so everyone must obey her orders. To rescue Nike, he needed to find the key she was holding, so Livius went to meet her. But she threw the key into the lake and said that Nike has so much potential power that she fears scenes like Livius will use her to take over the world. Livius doesn't care and he still jumps into the lake to find the key, and she agrees to let Nike go with him if he can find it. In the prison, Nike threw herself against the door to try to get out, causing her body to be injured all over despite Keturah's dissuade. She still did this out of love for Livius. Seeing her injure herself, Keturah released her and gave her first aid. When she ran to the river to find Livius, Nike saw him lying unconscious, so she quickly gave him CPR because she didn't want to lose the person she loved. As soon as she regained consciousness, Livius boasted that he had found the key, and that she also kept her promise not to interfere in their affairs again. After that, everyone forgives Livius, but he forgives them and thinks this is just a family matter. Seeing Nike, Livius asked her to go up to the tree to sit with him, but when Livius was about to touch her hand, she jumped up and wanted to die. Suddenly Neil appeared scolding the two people for not working. A woman appeared in front of Livius and introduced herself as Nike's mother. Nike's mother explained that Nike's power could destroy the world, so it was dangerous to let her walk outside. But Livius thought that it was dangerous for her to stay in a weak country like the Rain Kingdom, and in his own country, he had all the strength to protect her. Nike's mother also prepared Livius a traditional outfit for the couple to attend a royal party. That night, everyone had a great party. During the party, Livius announced to everyone that he would definitely make their princess happy, and he took the initiative to give her a kiss right in front of everyone, but Nike recognized her. And Keturah didn't come to the party. The next day, Livius went to see Keturah and advised him not to avoid Nike. Livius also lets the two of them talk privately, but warns her not to commit adultery behind his back. They learned that she was locking herself in the house to avoid them, so the two broke into her house, but she remained in the room and refused to show her face, so Nike stood outside to speak. Hope in what she wanted to say to her. The next day, it was also time for the two of them to return to the kingdom of the sun. While on the boat, Nike suddenly saw her standing in the distance singing to see her feed off, making her unable to hold back her tears but shedding tears because she missed her. Returning to town, Nike met up with two sisters who had once saved her, and two delinquents who had also converted. After a time when Livius was not at home, Bard turned his castle into a playhouse. Now everywhere in the castle he saw women. Livius's work is getting busier and busier, making Nike feel very lonely as she rarely has the opportunity to see him. As she was standing on the lawn, the white horse Prince Livius suddenly appeared in front of her. Then the two chatted on the grass, and gave each other a passionate kiss.